Chapter 11:22. The Instructions of the Fool. Above the gray fog, when Klein saw light-color Merskogen rapidly age and decompose into bones, he suddenly recalled Mobbit, Cyadas, Frunzier, and Snowman when they left Grossel's travels. He didn't have the time to stop it back then, and it was no different this time. This was because the leader of the King's Court Chasers had never chanted the honorific name of the Fool, so he was unable to pull him above the gray fog. However, compared to before, with the Sea God scepter in hand, he could now do more things by using the prayer light. He immediately accommodated the Black Emperor card and activated the powers of the mysterious space above the gray fog. He made the paper angel carry his own words and used the Crimson Star to enter the real world and land on the remnant spirit of light-color Merskogen. This was one of the methods that wouldn't lower his loftiness as the Fool. After all, the true creator was still watching the area. As Merskogen's consciousness was rapidly wiped out of existence, an angel with black wings suddenly appeared in front of him. The speed at which his spirit body collapsed slowed down as he heard a loud and majestic voice. "What is the advancement, ritual, and supplementary ingredients of the Silver Night Potion? Is Sasrir really sleeping in the palace of the Giant King?" Merskogen replied blankly. The advancement ritual of the Silver Night comes from the blasphemy slate. It needs a complicated altar to be set up, placing the remains of the 6 powerful creatures one had hunted in the correct positions and receive the blessings of a deity. The supplementary ingredients are... I can't be certain. In short, that door didn't open after Lord Sasrir entered. Amidst the response, the spirit of Merskogen's spirit slowly but firmly dissipated. Finally, he could no longer hold on as he was reduced to points of light that merged into the still dusk of the Giant King's court. And this conversation happened within the soul domain, so no one else could hear it. Thankfully, I'm careful enough to not let Merskogen say the main ingredient of the Silver Night Potion. Anyway, the Beyonder characteristic can be used to replace whatever it is. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to hear the answer to the second question. The Fool heaved a sigh of relief and praised himself inwardly. He then focused and seriously thought about what Merskogen had just said. A deity's blessing? Isn't this advancement ritual a little too difficult? It's only sequence 3. I have to consider the circumstances of his timeline. Merskogen is a powerhouse who survived from the Second Epic. It was a habit to call an angel a subsidiary god and include them in the ranks of a god. That also means that the blessings of an angel should be sufficient. Yes, I'll use divination to confirm this later. Of course, even if an angel's blessings are sufficient, I'm unable to do anything for the time being. It will depend if the Grade's sealed artifacts in the City of Silver have any living characteristics that can also be communicated with. The act of setting up that altar is actually a little complicated. Must the remains of the 6 powerful creatures that one has personally killed have to be at the demigod level? It's very difficult for demon hunters outside the forsaken land of the gods. How can there be so many demigod-level creatures to be killed? Most of them are protected by their corresponding organizations. From the looks of it, the Church of the God of Combat should have a new substitute method while maintaining the essence of the ritual. Is this the difference between the first and second blasphemy slate? However, for a young chief like the City of Silver, he must have killed more than 6 powerful monsters. That's easy. As he was currently certain that the second blasphemy slate had appeared after the ancient sun god's death, he was able to determine that light-color Merskogen was referring to the first blasphemy slate. He quickly conjured a piece of parchment from his interpretation of the advancement, ritual, and supplementary ingredients. Then, a divination with a topaz spirit pendulum was performed, to which he received a revelation that there were no mistakes. Then, he threw this message to the Crimson Star representing the sun. "This is a gift from Mr. Fool." After doing all of this, Klein gave a self-deprecating laugh. He increasingly felt that the answer to the second question was worth ruminating. He didn't say if Sasrir was truly asleep. He only said that the door hadn't opened after the Dark Angel entered. And the only thing that didn't open was the door. The God of knowledge and wisdom gave me the key, and Adam gave me the unshadowed crucifix. Was it done to open the door to confirm the Dark Angel's condition? As his thoughts raced, he suddenly felt lucky. Fortunately, the true creator wasn't too interested in this. If this entity had sent down his will just now and tried to influence Murskogen's dissipating spirit, he would have clashed with the fool's paper angel on the spot. That would be rather awkward. Only at that moment did Derek dare to open his eyes. His face was pale from having lost too much blood. In order to maintain the unshadowed domain, he had allowed the cross to absorb quite a bit of his blood. He looked around and placed the unshadowed crucifix in front of him as he sincerely thanked Mr. Fool. At that moment, Haim put away Thunder God's roar and his weapon. He removed the leather bag on his back and found a set of clothes to throw to the chief. To the City of Silver's exploration team, as long as they weren't wearing clothes and armor that were mystical items, it was inevitable that their clothes would suffer damage during battle. Therefore, they definitely prepared a few additional sets ahead of time. To them, the purpose of clothing covering their bodies was secondary. The most important thing was to leave space to store materials, ointments, and charms. Colin Iliad looked around vigilantly, but he didn't find anything unusual. He quickly put on his clothes and found one of the small metal bottles that had fallen all over the ground during the battle. He removed the lid and gulped it down. His face turned a little green as if he had been poisoned. However, his wounds and the signs of decline were improving. As for Lovia, she was no longer able to maintain the grazing of the silver-armored knight, and she placed it back inside her body. By the time Murskogen's Beyonder characteristic condensed into a silvery white luster that resembled a miniature sun or heart, it was put away by demon hunter Colin. This shepherd elder looked at the nearby palace with his gray eyes and said, "Chief, the path to the sea might very well be hidden there." Lovia paused for a moment before adding, "Perhaps there's another way to get to the other side of the sea." As Colin Iliad watched Derek, Haim, and the others clean up the battlefield, pick up items, and deal with the mutilated corpse of Antiona, he shook his head and said, "The Dark Angel is sleeping inside, and he is definitely a king of angels, one we are currently unable to resist. Even facing him will be very difficult. Let's head back first and inform everyone that we have seen the sea before making preparations for entry into the Giant King's palace." Lovia's silver-gray hair fluttered slightly as she wore a solemn expression. "But we don't know anything. We can't make any targeted preparations." After saying that, she fell silent for 2 seconds before saying, "I have a suggestion. You, Derek, Haim, and the others can head back first. I'll stay behind and attempt to enter the palace to gather useful information. I can fuse into the shadows and perhaps not disturb that dark angel. If I don't return, it means that the danger inside has exceeded the limits we can handle." When Lovia mentioned that she might die, her expression didn't change at all, as if she had long been prepared. Colin listened quietly and stared at her for a few seconds. "No, we can't bear such risks. If you awaken the Dark Angel, he might leave the Giant King's court and attack the City of Silver, but we definitely won't be able to resist against him." Without waiting for Lovia's reply, Colin Iliad turned his head and looked at the other 3 members. "Derek, what's your opinion?" "My opinion?" Derek was somewhat at a loss. He nearly blurted the question back out. Haim and the other Dawn Paladin were equally shocked. This was because this was an internal conflict among the 6-member council. Colin Iliad had actually asked for Derek Berg's opinion. Could it be that the chief has been nurturing Derek as the next elder of the 6-member council? The 2 members of the expedition team looked thoughtfully at their teammates. "This is him asking for my opinion." The fool Klein above the gray fog frowned slightly. His brain immediately began to churn rapidly. "What views can I have? If they were to open the door and awaken Sasrir, I wouldn't be able to save any of them. All I can do is get them to ask for the help of the true creator. Let's wait until I figure out the situation regarding the Dark Angel from the Red Angel evil spirit and other related existences before beginning the exploration. I don't have to worry about the Dragon of Wisdom and Adam's thoughts for now. No matter what, there's nothing wrong with choosing to be calm and cautious at such times." As his thoughts raced, Klein sternly said, "Return." He then projected this image into the crimson star, representing the sun. Derek was stunned for 2 seconds before calmly answering the chief's question. I think we should give up for now and wait until we're ready. Colin Iliad nodded and said to Shepherd Lovia, This is my decision. Lovia fell silent for a moment before saying, I will defer to your decision. She didn't say anything else, as she helped Derek and company mark the area. As Antiona wasn't killed by a blood relative, there was a high possibility that an anomaly would happen. Therefore, the expedition team would mark the area, making the ones who arrived later to be more vigilant. However, they didn't need to worry about such effects since they were very far away from the City of Silver. While they busied themselves, Lovia suddenly looked up and said to Derek and Haim, This is the Giant King's court. There might not be any anomalies. She didn't explain as she looked at Antiona's pile of flesh that had been burned into ashes by the flames. She grabbed a handful of them and placed them inside her leather bag. After completing these matters, the City of Silver's expedition team found another passageway, but they obtained a disappointing outcome. Following that, under the lead of Chief Colin Iliad, they retraced their path back. After entering the palace that had already lost its main door while having the oil painting band playing their tunes, Derek couldn't help but turn his head to look outside at the broken railings again. He looked at the orange-red cloud in the distance, towards the deep blue sea. After staring at it for a few seconds, he retracted his gaze and realized that the chief's light blue eyes were also silently looking in that direction. Colin immediately turned his head and said calmly, Let's go. Then, without turning back, he proceeded steadily.